Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. In this video, we'll look at how to pronounce saddle, settle, and subtle. So even though we have very different spelling in these words, some have the letter D and some have the letter T, all of these words have the same ending syllable, which is a flap sound and a syllabic L that sounds like dull. Saddle, settle, subtle. So the only difference between these words is in the vowel sound. Let's break down these vowels and also how to pronounce correctly this combination of flap and syllabic L at the ends of words. So in saddle, we have letter A saying the A vowel. This is the most typical pronunciation of letter A in English, even though of course it has many different vowel sounds it can make. Most of the time in a stressed syllable, letter A says A, as in saddle. You can think of other words like sat or cat or that have that A vowel and try to match your vowel. For example, you might try saying that saddle or sat on a saddle to be able to remember that A vowel. That's a front vowel. The back of the tongue should be lifted, but the jaw should be fairly open. A, that saddle. Then when we get to settle, letter E says the eh sound. This is also the most typical pronunciation for the letter E. It's often this vowel eh, like in read or said. So you could try saying I said I would settle, the red settlement, etc. Again, pairing that vowel. If you're trying to make the difference between saddle and settle, that because the words are so similar, it may be hard for you to contrast those vowels, but the difference between sat and read might be easier for your brain and your mouth to make that difference. Then you can use these anchor words to help you with the difficult words. So we have saddle, settle, and then in subtle, the letter B is silent. And again, we have our flap for the letter T. Here we had the flap for the letters DD, and here we had the flap for the letters TT. The flap sound is a voiced sound that is like a T and a D, except that we don't build up any pressure. So when I say a D sound, like in dog or do, I stop the air completely and then it bursts out. Or when I say a T sound, same thing. Talk or take, we completely stop the air and then we release it in an explosion. Those are called plosive sounds. But the flap, the tongue lifts up for the same spot that it does for T and D, but it doesn't build up any pressure. So when I say settle or subtle, dull, it's just a light little touch with my voice on and then my tongue comes back down. So I don't want dull, but rather subtle. It's actually a fairly subtle movement for that flap sound. Some languages use the flap for the R sound in the middle of words, and so you may think of this sound as an R if that's how you make R's in your language. That may help you to make that flap T and flap D sound in English. The vowel in subtle is, again, the sound, vowel schwa, which is also most typically spelled with the letter U, although schwa can be spelled with any of our vowel letters. So thinking of a word like such or fun, it was fun and subtle, such a subtle sound, etc., can help you to correctly pronounce subtle. As you see, I use A for a, EH for and UH for in my unconventional spelling. I'm trying to associate these vowel sounds with letters that how they're typically spelled. We do have a word that we spell that way, which is how we spell vowel schwa by itself, but we do often spell it with letter U, like in subtle. Finally, all of these words go from that flap to the dark L sound. So you can see how in the dictionary they're going to show it with the D or the T and then just the letter L. Some dictionaries will show it with a small schwa before the L, because to make that dark L, we have kind of a dark schwa sound before it. So it sounds like ol, The way I make that is I keep the back of my tongue in the schwa position and I lift the front of the tongue. Some people will recommend making the dark L without touching the tip of the tongue to behind the teeth in the L position. But the problem with this is that it often sounds distorted if it's not a natural sound for you. So you don't have to lift the tongue, but I recommend thinking of it as an ul, where you finish and lift the tongue. Particularly because in connected speech, if I'm saying settle a bet or subtle influence, I'm going to link that L and it'll transition from a dark L to a light L as I link to the next word. So it's very helpful to be able to feel that tongue connection, and that will help you to get a correct L. And if I don't lift my whole tongue, then I will avoid the non-English L, which would sound more like subtle. I don't want that whole tongue lifting. I want to make sure I have that lateral air coming off the sides of the tongue. Settle, subtle, and saddle. You can check out my video for syllabic L and for flap T on our Sounds of English playlist. You also may want to check out our Sounds of English American Accent course on our website, speechmodification.com. It goes through all of these vowels, all of the sounds of English in great detail, tells you what words they're in, what accent error patterns to watch out for, and how to correctly pronounce them so you can feel confident saying any word you like in American English, having that strong foundation in all of the sounds. That's our Sounds of English course, and you can find it on our website, speechmodification.com. Once you can say these words by themselves, do try practicing them in some short phrases. You can try the contrasts using these anchor words to compare, and you should be able to feel the difference between those vowels, the a being the most open, the being central and forward, and the being central and not forward. Thanks so much for this request. If you have a request you'd like to see me cover in our Word of the Day series, feel free to leave that in the comments. You can also check out more contrast videos like this on our Minimal Pairs playlist. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another Word of the Day, and on Saturday we'll have our live question and answer class. For those of you who are interested in getting more out of the channel, you can join as channel members and check out our additional videos for channel members and get a faster turnaround on your requests for videos you'd like to see me create. You can check that out by subscribing and then clicking the join button, and you can see the perks that we offer. Thanks so much for watching this video, for liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving your comments. I do go through those and get back to you with responses, create videos for you, or just help you to answer your questions regarding American English pronunciation and American accent. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.